All right, there is no question technology has changed us in many, many ways. I think for some good, some bad. Chris, through this last year, we've talked about the impact technology has had on us as humans and our behavior, all of that good stuff. And most of the stories, unfortunately, are not so impressive for us humans. Let's talk a little bit about some of your favorites.
Oh, I don't know about impressive. I think we're humans. For me, if I can laugh at what we humans do, it's progress. I think if you can just at least laugh about it, you're aware of it. For me lately, there have been several stories that have come up that just make me stop, lie down, get a very decent glass of wine, and consider what technology has done for humanity, or rather, to humanity. So, for example, suddenly this week it emerged that a K-pop star had lost more than 30 AirPods. Now, you'd think if you'd lose maybe one, maybe two, you'd start taking care of them a little better. But in his case, he just keeps losing them, and he said he keeps buying more. And of course, these things are not cheap, a couple of $100. And he thinks this, it seems he thinks this is perfectly normal behavior. So are we so desperate? And I believe we are. I stayed in a hotel only the other day where one of the receptionists kept his AirPods in at all times, even when he was talking to customers, even when he was checking customers in, which just seems very strange. So that was just the beginning of me considering whether, we're really heading in the right direction. And then I read about a toilet. Actually, that's unfair. Two toilets. These toilets, one, you urinate into the toilet, and this is an actual product, and the toilet will be able to tell you if you're sick. Now, to me, that smacks of creating paranoia every day. I don't know about you, Karen, maybe you find that wonderful because you have an Apple Watch at all times and you're desperate for it to tell you what your heart rate is. There does come a point though where our behavior begins to change in a way that I fear is going to be even more paranoid than all the other things that are happening in the world make us right now. Then there's this other toilet. There's another toilet being created, which I have to say, you have to really consider the minds of the people behind it. And this toilet is deliberately sloped at 13 degrees. And the purpose of it is to make office workers more productive, because if you sit on the toilet sloping at 13 degrees, it's much more uncomfortable and you physically can't sit there for more than 4 or 5 minutes. Can you believe that someone has thought this might be a good idea? And can you believe that we are being driven now by data so much that people think they can force employees using wonderful new gadgets to be 1 minute more productive? Not for a moment do they stop to think of the human part of that, the fact that humans are smart enough to know when they're being manipulated, at least sometimes, and perhaps when their bosses are giving them an uncomfortable toilet, it makes me feel quite sad. So I was getting to the point where I was extremely sad, so I went to the beach, which is something you would naturally do. And I sat on the beach, and a couple turned up with a very large speaker, turned on their music very loud, and blared it across the whole beach. What was curious for me, and it's something I've been noticing over time, is that no one thinks this is abnormal anymore. You can sit in restaurants, and I've sat several times this year where people have turned their iPhones on, turned the music up, and watched videos, and everyone seems to think this is normal. No one actually complains or objects. And I think the sad root of this is people who create technology don't consider for a moment anything outside of how cool it is to create that technology. They don't consider at all the consequences of that technology and how people might use it. And we, self-centered beings that we are, seem to think now we can live in our own worlds in public and just annoy the hell out of anyone else. And those who are annoyed try and suppress their annoyance. I don't think that's a healthy prospect. Do you, Karen?
I don't think it is, Chris. And there's so many different elements here. I mean, the toilets themselves, the one with all the feedback. I think we're getting into feedback overload with analyzing, everything going on in our body, and obviously great to be in tune with our bodies. But there's a lot of that. The sloping one, I don't even know what to say about that. But it's funny that you say that about the last part. Just recently, there was a celebrity that tweeted a picture of some kids. I don't know if you saw that or not, at a museum. They were sitting on a bench with that work of art behind them, and they're all looking down like this. And she said, what's wrong with this picture? The comments, though, that followed were really interesting, on both sides of the fence, I think. And some of them saying, listen, the generation sitting looking at their phone, you guys created that technology for them, and now you're mad at them for using it. So, it's
Yep,
this
that was
big.
Bette Midler. But of course, what we didn't know about that picture is why those kids were at that very moment staring at their phones. They could have taken pictures of famous paintings and were sending them to their friends, their parents, their guardians, who knows? We don't actually know from a single picture. However, it's interesting that the natural conclusion of seeing a picture like that is, yet again, here are people disappearing into their own technological world and couldn't give a hoot about anything that's happening around them.
Yep, you're absolutely right. And I would be remiss really quick too before we get off if I don't mention go back to the AirPods, because I feel like you've written a lot about AirPods too, and how how we're using them, how they're just becoming like an accessory that doesn't leave our bodies, especially some of the younger generation. And then I'm remembering one particular conversation we had about AirPods in the bedroom. I mean, there's just so many different things, different ways that we are being impacted by technology, ways you don't even think of.
17% of people claim they don't take their AirPods off during sex. I know that's what you were referring to, Karen.
That's the statistic I was looking for. You had it on the tip of your tongue. That was it. Oh, gosh. Chris, always a pleasure to talk with you. Interesting here. Certainly, this is a conversation that we could go on and on about. And as we head into 2020, we're just going to have to see what other crazy stories we come up with, the way technology is impacting us as humans. So we wish you a very happy new year.
Thank you very much, and to you too.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Thanks for watching, everybody.